What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to be making Mokume Gane out of quarters. Now if you're new to this and you don't know what Mokume Gane is, it's basically just a Damascus out of copper and nickel. And many people use quarters instead of just using sheets of copper and nickel, because quarters are actually made with nickel on the outside and copper on the inside. So it's a very good and accessible thing that you can use for making Mokume Gane. So hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, and if I'm not, well, it is what it is. I don't speak the language. So here I'm trying to get a rough estimate of what size I need to make these tongs. That way I can hold it together. Now these tongs are some very old tongs that I got from I believe a sponsorship I did for the bigger forge that I have down there, and they're pretty much useless. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjust them so that I can hold my billet in there. And normally what I would do, or what somebody else would do in my case, is tie it up in a certain way or use a TIG welder to fuse the edges together to hold it all together. I don't want to use MIG welding because that's going to introduce a different kind of steel, and I can't use TIG because I do not own a TIG welding machine. So what I'm doing is I'm modifying these tongs, that way I can use them to hold it while it heats up in the forge. Now that I have my tongs set to the size that I need, I'm taking this 1/4 inch round stock and I'm forging it into a bit of a loop. That way I can use it as a tie down. That way I can hold the end of the clamp together and I can just put it into the forge and let it heat up. That way it doesn't release itself and I don't have to be there holding it or babysitting it while it goes up to heat. Now I am by no means a decent blacksmith, so I struggle very much with the simplest of tasks. That's why I'm taking a already made pair of tongs and modifying it instead of just making one from scratch, because I do not know how to. I do hope to learn in the future, maybe take some classes with on blacksmithing and learning how to make tongs and other tools. That would be very helpful. But I never learned how to blacksmith. I just jumped straight into knife making and bladesmithing, which is a lot easier than blacksmithing. Really, just making anything to the shape of a knife, it's a lot easier than blacksmiths, who actually have a more difficult craft and they have to really use their imagination to, mold things into the way they need it molded. It's actually pretty cool, and definitely they have my respect, because man, this stuff is tough. I've tried to make tongs before in the past. They've never come out right. Always ugly. So as you can see, I've already managed to mess this up, and I managed to save this little piece and it stuck on pretty well, but I definitely made a mess of the rest of my billet. But I got a piece to stick, and I'm gonna consider that a win for now. Alright guys, so this is what I ended up with. I have 3 that got stuck a decent amount. I think these 3 are promising. They vary in sizes. I think this one's only 2 coins, maybe more. And over here I have the ones that fell off. So these are basically stacks of 2 or stacks of 3. and some of them are singles. And I guess part of the billet was hot enough and part wasn't, so when I smacked it, it just broke apart, and where it broke apart, everything went its own separate ways, but whatever did stick ended up stuck. So what I think I'm gonna do is, so I can get more of these bigger pieces, I'm probably gonna clean these up and try again with these guys, and hopefully they stick, because that would be cool to get another one of these. And once I have that, I'm gonna clean the edges off of these guys to make sure they're fully welded, and I'm gonna start patterning them. That way we can get a pretty cool design out of them. Maybe I'll clean them up and restack them again and see if they forge weld. These two are about the same size. I don't know. These seems like a pretty good size to try different patterns out with. But overall, pretty cool, pretty cool. I'm gonna clean these guys up, and I'm gonna try again tomorrow morning to forge weld those together. And if we have a success, we'll have 4 different billets. Although this one's pretty small, doesn't matter. We'll have 4 different ones, and if not, we'll have 3. As I was doing research to figure out how to, go about this process of making Mokume Gane, I ended up seeing a video where a guy said that he needed to clean off the edges before he forged it up anymore. That way he could avoid any kind of delams or wanting to split apart on those edges. So I decided to do that to be able to mitigate any problems down the road. Alright, so I got all my pieces ready. This guy, I'm just going to put it in the clamp and throw it in the fire. And I'm just going to sacrifice this clamp. It is what it is. These are like $2 at Harbor Freight. If it gives me a successful weld, I'll be more than happy to use that guy. They got tons of them. So for these guys, I'm going to do them a little differently. Hopefully this one works. It's going to be my regular one. I'm going to do a ladder pattern, a raindrop pattern, and I'm just going to... What can I do with this? Maybe instead of just doing lines, maybe I'll do X's just to get a different kind of pattern out of it. And we'll see what they look like at the end. I ended up changing my mind and not doing X's, but I ended up just notching out the ends of this on both sides the same way you would do a ladder pattern, but just notching out the edges. And I ended up drilling in the center just to not keep the center blank. And on the other one, I did end up doing a ladder pattern, and this ended up being the thinner one, which I shouldn't have really done it on the thinner one now looking back, but I did it anyways. And I ended up with a very thin piece at the end. Here I got my clamp out, and I'm actually tightening the clamp and using the force from tightening the clamp to be able to forge weld those pieces together. I hadn't thought about that originally, but once I got it out, I was like, well, how am I gonna forge it to make it stick? So I ended up doing that, and it actually worked out pretty well, and the little billet stuck together very nicely. Once under the hammer, the material is actually pretty soft and easy and very malleable to move around, but it is a lot easier under the press. I do have some regrets from doing it this way, and this way I mean by using the press. Even though it did make it a lot easier, it actually introduced some scale that I had in the press, which then I could not remove, and made a lot of low spots in the final result, which was completely my fault. I did not realize that would happen, but some of that scale was embedded into the copper, and it was basically impossible to remove without removing any of the actual patterning that I put into it. So moving forward, if I ever do this again, I definitely will not go that route, because it kind of just ruined the pieces, at least in my opinion, even though they came out looking pretty cool, if I do say so myself. Pretty cool, but kind of messed up. Here's a cool little hammer I got from Housemade a few months back. I meant to show it in some forging. I don't know if I did or explain it. This is a cool little dog head. It's about 1.5 pounds. And I don't use it much, and it feels a little odd when I use it. Not because it's any of the way it's made. It's just because I don't know how to use a dog head hammer. But it is pretty cool, and I like to use it whenever I can. So this is what they ended up looking like, but there's a lot of scratches and whatnot on them. And this side I've already almost gotten rid of the whole pattern that I ground on it trying to clean it up. So instead of doing that, I think I'm just going to hit it on the wire wheel, because I don't have a good method of cleaning them up without getting rid of the patterning on it. This one came out the best. You can definitely see all that good stuff in there, that raindrop. But I'm not a fan of the way it's looking. I can't really take it all off. It's a little dished, and if I grind it flat, I'm gonna get rid of the patterning, which was the whole point of it. And I don't really know how to clean it. I guess if I had like Scotch Brites or something to just clean it without being too aggressive, taking too much material off. But oh well, it is what it is. I'm gonna hit it on the wire wheel, and hopefully it looks good at the end. Alright guys, so I was looking for a way to be able to buff those things out, and I ended up running into these, so I'm going to give these a try. I'm going to put them on my drill, and I'm going to hit it with. This is an 80 grit. I have here a 400 grit and I believe 180 grit. And then I'll buff them with some green compound, and hopefully it turns out well. And here's a look at the final pieces. I did have that scale stuck in there that I wasn't able to get out. Overall, it was a fun first try, fun little experiment. I've never done Mokume Gane before, and I definitely will try it again in the future. But overall, I'm going to consider this a successful failure. And overall, they look pretty cool. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I greatly appreciate you guys checking out the video, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.